What is up, YouTube fam? Today is not, it's not one of the best days in the world, but it's not one of the worst. We're keeping our heads up high. We're surviving. We're doing what we can. I wouldn't say we're thriving. I would definitely say we are surviving. Right now is just arguably some of the toughest times to be an investor. Depending on how you look at it, right? It is all about your frame of mind, your state of mind. Because at the end of the day, the market does what the market wants to do. It's like the ocean, right? The ocean goes one way, it goes the other way. Your emotional attachment to which direction it's going, that's on you, right? Because at the end of the day, this is an infinite world. Some people are, sitting on cash and they're very happy because they're getting buying opportunities. Some people are in short on the market and they're very happy because their positions are making money. People like us, right? If you're an option seller like myself, then, there's no reason to fret and fray. There's no reason for it to be a good day or a bad day, right? At the end of the day, this portfolio that you're looking at, this amount of 82,000, listen, are we down 18,000 from our starting point? Yes, we are. But what do you want me to do about it, right? What is there to do, right? What is there to say? What is there to do? I'm selling my puts. I'm selling my calls. We closed out some positions today for some great profit, right? I'll show you guys. We closed this one, this one, this one, this one. All in all, it was like $700-800 worth of profit between them all. Does it show where we sold them at? I don't think it does on this. It does on the phone app, so I'll put a picture up right now so you can see. We closed some good profits on these positions. And that's the beautiful part about selling calls, selling puts, right? It allows you to buy the dip without having to buy the dip, right? Without having to reach into my wallet and continue to deposit more cash, I'm able to continuously lower my entries. So, if you've been following me, then you would know that when I originally got assigned on these shares, I was assigned at $51. Now we're at $47.65. At the end of the day, the lower the market goes, the lower we'll be able to get this number as well. And guess what? When the market recovers, it's going to look incredible for our account. And that's the thing. That's what makes me excited, is the fact that we have plans in place to continue selling options and continue recovering our account. Because at the end of the day, I can't control the market. I can't control what's happening right now. It's out of my control, right? There's nothing I can say about it. There's nothing I can do about it. There's nothing I can change about it. But here's what I can say, is I can control the fact that I'm in an asset that I have no stress regarding, right? I've always been a Bitcoin holder. I've always been a crypto holder. I've always been a believer. And ultimately, I don't believe Bitcoin's going to zero. Reality is, this has nothing to do with Bitcoin. This has everything to do with the entire world. This is the NASDAQ 100, and look how much we are getting crushed. We are down 11% since February 21st, right? I don't remember which day exactly I deposited the 100,000. Let's see. Where do we go to? Transfers. I want to see. Okay, so February 25th is when we made the large amount. And let's just look. Since February 25th, we literally haven't even smelt green. Right now it's the spring is approaching, and there's grass outside, and I can't even smell the green. It's I would say the market being red is the equivalent to the pollen coming out with the spring, right? It's like, oh, it's a beautiful spring day with flowers blossoming, but guess what? Now you have pollen in your nose and you can't smell it anyway, right? That's what it feels like. And ultimately, for me, the reason why I don't care about this money, of course I care about it, right? Like, listen, to sit here and say I wouldn't rather be up 18,000 than down 18, right? It's not that I don't care about it. It's the simple fact that this money was invested in an account that wasn't selling options. So selling options is actually making me a lot more because I'm collecting premium and lowering my entry than if I was just buying and holding. Had I just been buying and holding, I would be getting much worsely beaten up. So it's all about perspective, right? If you put your entire life savings into these amounts at the top, then you're probably devastated, right? But if you're someone like me who's been in the markets for years, you've seen it all, you've done it all, you've been through it all. I've been involved in COVID. I've been involved in all these crashes. It's just a regular day at the office. Is it a good day? No. These are the days that you have to prepare for because these days do exist. These are the toughest times. When people are afraid to sell options, when people are afraid to trade, when people are afraid to invest, They're afraid of times like this. So if you're involved in it like me and you're surviving it, then give yourself a pat on the back, because when we pull up the stocks and we look at how badly beaten all of these stocks are, right? Literally every name that you can think of is destroyed. So if you're sitting here watching, laughing at me, I got to ask you, what does your portfolio look like, right? Because if you're sitting there in cash, then I hope you're deploying it, because guess what? In the long run, your cash positions will get destroyed. If you're sitting there and you're holding any stock, then you're getting beaten up. So, if you want to laugh at me, great. You could laugh at yourself as well. At the end of the day, that's why I'm not ashamed. I'm not ashamed because there's nothing to be ashamed of, right? In the end of the day, my portfolio goes up and down with the markets. And when the markets go up, I'm going to go up more. And when the markets go down, I'm going to go down less. Am I comparing myself to the S&P? No, because I'm not involved in the S&P. I'm involved in a leveraged version of the NASDAQ and Bitcoin, right? So I can only compare myself to what I'm actually involved in. I'm also involved in TSLL, which, at this point, Tesla, I don't even know what to say about Tesla, right? I think it's a little bit of a goner. I think Elon Musk has become a little political. I mean, if we're being completely frank, the people that mostly drove Teslas were liberal people, and now liberal people seem to hate Elon Musk. So, it did make me realize I don't see the benefit of Tesla at the moment. I took the TSLL position strictly based on the chart, but now that I think about it from a fundamental perspective, it's hard to be a fan of Tesla because of the fact that the people that were driving Tesla now hate Elon Musk. So as to who's going to be buying Teslas in the future, I really don't know, truthfully. But this TSL position is a very small amount of my portfolio. So, am I going to sit here and cry over the 1,500? No. In the end of the day, I got much bigger fish to fry. When I do get a sign on this TSLL position, I'll just sell calls against it. So even if I do lose all of my money, ideally, I don't think it's going to go to zero. Listen, I don't want to sound like a doomsdayer and say, oh, Tesla's going to zero. I don't think that's the case. So, even if it does continue to crash, I'll just sell calls against it to make my money back and ultimately get out of that position, even if it's for a loss, right? But with all that being said, I have nothing to worry about because my positions are aligned with the market. Like, yes, TQQQ is a little more, is leveraged, right? Which makes it a little riskier. But at the end of the day, it is something that's been around since 2015, right? It's not like, 2010. It's been around for 15 years is what I meant to say. It's not like it's just some fly-by-day, stock that just came into existence, right? Look, inception date, 2010, number of holdings 125, assets under management $20 billion. This isn't some fly-by-night, poop coin, right? Some meme coin. Yes, it has that volatility, right? Like it's down 25%. And that's what's crazy. When you're in a time like right now where $100 billion companies are moving at the rate of meme coins, it's like, why even get involved in meme stocks and penny stocks and speculation when you can get this volatility? I mean, look at MSTX is down 30% just today. If you want to buy MSTR, you could buy it. It's moving like a freaking meme coin. And you know what? At this point, I wouldn't buy it right now, truthfully. Like if I was sitting on the sideline, this looks like it can go all the way down another 50%. And that's what's really scary. When you look at these charts, you realize like Bitcoin, it really does look like it could retest at the very least these levels right here. So, I think if you have been involved the same way I've been, then give yourself credit because right now you are going through the time that literally will keep people on the sidelines for their entire existence. So when you go through it, survive it, and then your account recovers, right now this account isn't pretty, but when it does recover and it gets from 80K back to 100 to 110, 120, 130, we'll see who's laughing, right? And ultimately that's what it comes down to. Again, if the entire market was crashing and if the entire market was going up and my portfolio was crashing, then I would take all the heat in the world and I'd say there's something wrong with my strategy, there's something wrong with my thesis, there's something wrong with my investments. But I've stated this a million times in this channel. I'm not here to short the market because I've done it. I've been there, I've done it, and I know long-term people who short the market are going to get destroyed. There's a reason why 99% of traders aren't actually profitable because they're going to end up shorting the market the whole time it goes back up. Or they're longing the market right now, and then when they finally do flip short is when it's going to be at the bottom. So, moments like right now, it just kind of is what it is, like, listen, you could say, oh, you predicted the top and maybe you did get out up here. And guess what? At that point, good for you. I'm happy for you. I'm not sitting here rooting for others to fail. I'm not sitting here rooting for the market to crash. I'm just taking what life gives me, right? I'm taking it day by day. I have hundreds of shares that I'm selling calls against, and these calls, they're doing great things for me at the moment. At this point, all of these puts, I honestly kind of regret rolling these puts months out because, in the end of the day, I'd almost rather just be getting the shares, getting assigned and selling calls against it. I have these calls that are a month, 2 months, a month and a half out. I'll probably end up closing it because while I'm already up 65%, am I going to hold for another 35 days for an extra $100? It doesn't really make sense, right? Ultimately, I can just sell calls that are closer to the strike and then roll up if the market does recover, similar to these positions, right? These positions in which I opened today and I alerted the signals, I alerted my Discord. Ultimately, it's a win-win because at the end of the day, these calls are either going to lower my entry or the market's going to bounce and I'm going to roll them up and ultimately profit either way. So right now, a time like this is the toughest time, because as an investor, who the heck wants to see the market flying down, right? Like I said, any stock you look at is shooting down. Am I going to cry about it, right? Like, what are you going to do? Ultimately, the only thing you can do is play the cards that you were dealt, right? So for me, I committed to option selling. It's something I plan on doing for 10 years, 20 years. I mean, I'm 27 years old. There's no reason why if I live to 90 years old, I don't sell options from now until then, right? So in the short term, it sucks, right? And as a guy who has committed to making content and committed to documenting and sharing it with all of you, this is the hard part, truthfully. Like, the reality is I would happily, shut my computer, shut my phone and not look, check it once a week just to see how my option positions are doing. And if you're a normal person who has investments and is selling options, and that's what I advise you to do. I don't advise you to obsess over it. I don't advise you to watch it every day. I advise you to check it once, twice a week, see how your options are. If you have to roll them, roll them. If you have to close them, close them. If you have to add new ones, add new ones. But, these are tough times. And if you're someone who is, going through it with me, then just understand that this is what's going to make you stronger. I've watched portfolios of mine go down hundreds of thousands. I've watched 50, 60K turn into 400,000. I've been a part of a lot in my investing career. And I know that a time like this is one of the toughest times. Now, with that being said, there isn't really any major catalyst that should be causing this, right? When you think about the crashes and you look at the charts, it's like, this happened. I honestly don't even remember what caused this crash here. But obviously, when we go back to COVID, right, there was the COVID crash. And then it was just a bear market, right? Like from 2022 up until, basically all of 2022 was just a bear market. The reality is the S&P and the QQQ has only gone bearish for over a year. I think once since it's existed, which has obviously existed for a long time now. So, we've been in this bear cycle. It hasn't even been that long, truthfully. I mean, it's not even a bear cycle. It's really just a pullback. It's just a very, very strong pullback. That's the thing. When you actually look at this chart, it kind of makes you realize the perspective. Like, this is not a bear market by any means, right? Everything about this is a bull market. This is just the sharpest pullback that I've seen in a long time. And ultimately, I don't know when it's going to end. It's not my job to predict it, right? I'm not a trader. I'm not here to try to find the bottom. All I know is, I have my shares, I have my investments, and I'm selling calls against them, right? That's it. So we're collecting premium. And the more this falls, the better our calls do. Now, obviously selling calls is a double-edged sword because it's great that we're up $80 on this call right now. But I'd rather see my portfolio up, right? Because I'd rather not be down $8,000 today. And ultimately, that's what it comes down to is selling calls compared to the actual asset. Yes, you would rather the asset go up. But the beautiful part is when the asset does recover and these calls start losing, then you can just roll them further. Right? So selling options puts you in a position to win no matter what. But the most important factor is selling options on assets that you genuinely can trust. Because if you don't, then there's no foundation, right? As long as you're selling options on an asset that you don't want to trust, that you can't trust, that you know nothing about, you'll never succeed because how are you going to roll months out? Like, yes, right now these covered calls are printing while the rest of my portfolio gets destroyed. But ultimately, when the covered calls start losing, that's actually the best case scenario, right? Because that will mean that my portfolio is doing well. And at that point, the only thing I'll be able to do is roll the covered call out in months to make sure I don't get assigned and don't lose my shares for a exit that's lower than my cost basis, right? Because at the end of the day, covered calls is a tough task, because what I want to do is lower this, but I don't want to get assigned, at $60, right? Because if I get assigned at $60, I'm losing, whatever, $24 on my position, which you times it by 300, it comes out to, 5,000-6,000. So it's not like selling options is this easy walk in the park. It takes a lot of mental strain, because you're either going to be, like I said, printing on the calls when the market crashes, or having to roll because now your calls are underwater. So that's it, guys, right? My portfolio is getting crushed. If you're watching this, your portfolio is probably getting crushed, right? And that's it. In the end of the day, that's what you want to do. You want to be aligned with the market and aligned with the world, because the market will recover, right? At the end of the day, the NASDAQ is the best 100 tech companies. The SPY is the best 500 companies. Invest in those. Believe in them, right? Because obviously believing in yourself is just as important, but believe in humanity. And right now, it's tough. Right now, it is very tough. Truthfully, again, why is the market going down so fast? I just think that they're trying to make the new regime look bad. They're trying to do what they can to manipulate the market. It's truly manipulation, because there's no real reason, in my opinion, for a bear market at this moment, right? We have world peace talks. We have innovation talks. To me, everything I see in the future looks good. So in the short term, it looks terrible. And that's the thing. In the end of the day, right now might be a very tough time. But when you expand your horizon, it actually is kind of an investor's paradise, because when things look good in the long term and terrible in the short term, what does that tell you? It tells you that this is a great buying opportunity, right? So for me, I'll always love selling options, because selling options will always allow you to maximize your investments. That's what it comes down to. We talk about creating passive income. I don't really want to create passive income when the market's crashing, because my portfolio is still getting smoked. So for me, at this moment, my focus is more about shifting towards maximizing my investments. So ultimately, I know, if you're watching, you're probably like, why the heck am I going to listen to this dude who's down 18,000, 19,000? But if you're a long-term investor, your portfolios have to be getting crushed. It's like, there's just no way around it. And guess what? The long-term investors always win in the end. So, for me, I didn't commit to option selling for, worrying about every week. I committed to it for the rest of my life. I'm in this till I die. And ultimately, God willing, I live another 50, 60, 70 years. I'll be doing it and I'll be making money. And I know that when it's all said and done, I will get the last laugh. So again, if you're laughing at me, just think about who you're really laughing at, right? You're laughing at the whole market. And at that point, if you're a doomsday, negative Nancy type of guy, then you're probably just a loser, right? Probably nobody wants to be around you. You probably don't know what it's like to even have $80,000 in an investment account. Now, with all that being said, if you're someone who's like me, who's watching their account get crushed, stay strong, right? If you work your job, keep using your paychecks to buy more. Now is the time to buy. If you're selling options, reinvest that premium, because it's only going to get better from here. This is really as bad as it can get, right? When you look at the chart, these types of times, they're short and they're not long lived, right? So to me, the worst possible case scenario, we deal with this for all of 2025, which again would suck. Best case scenario, we have a couple more weeks, or it ends soon, right? Like, this, in the end of the day, this is the worst case scenario, is we have to deal with a whole year of bearishness, right? As you see from 2022 up until 2023, the reality probably is more something like this, couple months. A lot of the time, again, it only is 1 month. At this point, it's already been 2. And to me, obviously, these types of wicks here, it looks like it feels like a top signal. It's giving top, right? To me, what do I think is most likely? I think something like this demand zone getting retested. If you've been following me for a while, you know how I read the charts, then you would know that when I see wicks like this, they pretty much always will get not just retested, but they'll get taken out. And what I mean by taken out is the price will come back below the wick, right? And then go back up. So if you were to ask me what I see, right, probably something like that, which, obviously this chart is drawn out to 2033. I don't think it'll be that slow, but you get the point. You get the drift. Again, if you're going through a tough time, if you're attached, then that's, it's on you, right? Don't be attached. Obviously, again, I don't want to be down this amount. Nobody does. It's the whole world, though. assuming you're someone like me who's just invested, then, and you're invested in the right things, then you're in it with the whole world. It's not just you. But if you are invested in the wrong things and you were invested in meme coins and your portfolio is actually at zero, then this is your wake-up call to understand that when you're invested in the wrong assets, it doesn't show in the bull market, right? In the bull market, everyone wins, but it shows in the bear market. The bear market is where the truth is revealed. We see who was swimming naked and who didn't belong. So I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you learned a lot. If you want to learn how to sell options, right now, obviously is a very important time to be doing it right. So I created a free checklist which goes over everything you would need to know before you sell your first option. I'm going to put a link in the description. So if you want, check it out, get the free checklist so you can begin selling options, because now is truly the best time, right? Selling options in the bull market is great, but honestly, selling options in a bear market is even better because you're going to get better entries, right? Who the heck wants to buy the top? Who the heck wants to be involved at the top? So I hope you enjoyed this video. Let me know your thoughts. If you're hanging in there, please, send me some words for yourself, for me. Make sure to let me know. Make sure to subscribe, and I will see you in the next video.